Welcome back to my channel, Authentically Parenting. As I was preparing for this final video in our summer series, I was going to sit down and give you more tips, more strategies, more things to do when your kids are fighting, more things to do when you're overwhelmed, more things to do when summer isn't going the way you hoped. And then something happened recently with my own kids that completely changed what I wanted to talk about today. Because honestly, I think this conversation is so much more important. I think this might actually be the most important video I have made in this summer series. Because what my kids revealed about me in this summer had very little to do with them and a whole lot to do with me. So, let me tell you what happened. A few weeks ago, I found myself getting really frustrated with my kids. And the funny thing is, if you had walked into my house in that moment, you probably would have thought, Jahanvi, what's the big deal? Nobody was doing anything terrible. Nobody was being unsafe, or nobody was being intentionally disrespectful. And actually, if I'm being completely honest, my kids were doing exactly what children do. They got distracted. That's it. I mean, they just got distracted. Now, here is where it gets interesting. Before all of this chaos took place, I had already thought through the entire evening in my head. I had already figured out what needed to happen first, what needed to happen second, what needed to happen third, what time we needed to leave, what time we needed to be done, what still needed to happen before bedtime. And I had also made room for the things my kids wanted to do. Anybody else do this? Please tell me it's not just me. Right. So in my mind, I wasn't trying to control anybody. I genuinely thought I was helping. I thought I was helping us avoid stress later. I thought I was helping us have a smoother evening. I thought I was helping everyone get what they wanted. Right. So I explained it. I walked them through. I explained why. I explained what needed to happen. I explained what would happen if we got too far off track. Right. Everything. And then life happened. One child got interested in something, the other got pulled into something else, and my plan started unraveling. Not dramatically, just the way plans tend to unravel when children are involved, right? And I could feel myself getting more and more frustrated. At first I thought they aren't listening, right? That was the first story. That's what looked on the surface, that, hey, they're not listening. Right. And then one of my children said something that really got me. They basically told me, Mom, you never said not to do that, or whatever it was, right? And I remember feeling this immediate wave rise inside me. What do you mean I never said that? I spent so much time explaining it. I thought through every single detail. I made sure everybody understood. I went out of my way to be clear. And honestly, that's when I went from frustrated to furious. But later, that night, after everyone went to bed, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Because something wasn't adding up. The intensity of my reaction didn't match the situation. Have you ever had that happen where, later you're sitting there thinking, okay, wait a second. What was that really about? Right? Because children getting distracted isn't exactly breaking news, right? My children have been getting distracted for years. All children do. So, why did this particular moment affect me so much? And that one question started taking me down a path I was not expecting. Stay with me here. You want to listen to this. There's one thing I've learned through this work. There's so many layers. And then layers underneath the layers, and then layers underneath those layers. The more curious we become, the more we realize our patterns are often like those Russian nesting dolls, right? You open one and find another, and another, and another. And every time you think you've found the answer, there is another layer waiting underneath. right? So at first I thought I'm upset because they are not listening. Then I opened that layer. And underneath it was things aren't going according to plan. That's what it is. It's just not going according to, I planned so much and it's not going according to plan. And that's why it's triggering me. And then I opened that layer, and underneath it was maybe I need control to feel safe. And honestly, for years, that's what I believed. I thought I had already figured this pattern out. I thought, yep, that's it. I like control. I have to feel control in order to feel safe. Control helps me feel safe. Case closed. But this situation revealed another layer. So I opened that one too. And underneath it was, I'm trying to prevent stress. I'm trying to prevent disappointment. I'm trying to prevent rushing. I'm trying to prevent overwhelm. I'm trying to prevent the next wave before it arrives. And then I open another layer and another and another. Until eventually, I wasn't looking at a parenting problem anymore. I was looking at a little girl who had learned very early that staying prepared felt safer, that thinking ahead felt safer, that preventing problems felt safer. And honestly, I think that's one of the most beautiful parts of this work, because every layer we uncover doesn't take us further away from us, it brings us closer to us, closer to younger version of us that first learned the story, closer to the younger version of us that adopted, closer to the younger version of us that was simply trying to feel safe. And that's when I realized this wasn't about my kids getting distracted. This wasn't even about parenting. Parenting had simply become the mirror that reflected something much older back to me. And suddenly I saw something I had never been able to see before. I wasn't controlling, I was protecting, or at least trying to. The problem was that I was trying to protect everyone from problems that hadn't even happened yet. I was trying to protect my family from stress, from overwhelm, from rushing, from disappointment, from bedtime battles later, from the next wave before it arrived. So the problem was I was reacting to tomorrow's stress while standing in today's moment. And that's when another memory surfaced. And this was a huge aha moment for me. Growing up, I was the responsible one, the mature one, the helpful one, the easy one, the one who didn't create problems, the one who thought ahead, the one who stayed prepared, the one who tried to make life easier for everyone else around her. And for years, I thought those were simply my personality traits. But now I wonder, how many of those were actually adaptations? Because growing up, when things went wrong, tension entered the room, stress entered the room, anxiety entered the room, right? You could feel it. Nobody had to explain it. You could just feel it. And somehow along the way, my nervous system learned something. My nervous system learned, hey, Jahan, we stay ahead of the game, prevent the next wave, keep things together, and maybe everyone will be okay. And I realized this, I mean, after doing years of this work, right? As I say, there's so many layers after layers after layers. And I think my layer had stopped at, hey, I need to feel in control in order to feel safe. But then I realized that, my goodness, I've spent most of my life being the goalkeeper, the emotional goalkeeper, always watching, always anticipating, always trying to stop the next ball before it hit the net. And that realization completely opened my eyes in a way I wasn't expecting. Because suddenly I wasn't looking at a frustrated mom standing in her kitchen. I was looking at a little girl who had spent years trying to protect everyone from the next wave. And that little girl grew up. She became a mother. And she became very, very good at anticipating needs, planning, preparing, helping, preventing. The problem is sometimes those strengths follow us into the places they no longer belong. And suddenly, a child getting distracted feels so much bigger than it actually is. Not because the distraction is the problem, but because an old part of us is still trying to protect everyone from a future stress that hasn't even happened yet. Right? And then we're not done here, guys. Another layer hit me. If I'm Because if I'm being completely honest, what hurt wasn't just that the kids got distracted. What hurt wasn't even that the plan didn't happen. What hurt was feeling like all the effort I had put into trying to make things easier wasn't being seen. And if I'm really honest, that's an old wound too. When I saw that, something here softened. Not because I suddenly had the answer, but because I finally understood the question. I finally understood why this moment felt so much bigger than the moment itself. And maybe that's one of the most important things I've learned through this work. Healing doesn't usually happen because we find the answer. It happens because we learn how to ask better questions. Questions like, why does this bother me so much? Why is this reaction so big? Why does this feel bigger than the moment in front of me? And maybe the deepest question of all, what story is my nervous system carrying? Because when I asked that question, I realized this wasn't just about parenting. This wasn't just about my children. This was a pattern that had been quietly following me for years, a pattern that started long before I ever become a mother. And awareness was only the beginning. Because awareness shines a light, but the real work begins the next day, the next bedtime, the next disagreement, the next moment when your nervous system wants to do what it's always done because that's familiar. And honestly, that's where I am right now. I'm not sitting here telling you, oh, I have figured it all out. I'm sitting here telling you what I'm practicing. I'm experimenting. I'm experimenting with carrying a little less. I'm experimenting with trusting that not everything rests on my shoulders. I'm experimenting with letting my family carry more too. And did you notice? I didn't say fixing. I didn't say healing. I didn't say mastering. I said experimenting. Right? Because I think sometimes we uncover a pattern and immediately turn it into another project, another thing to perfect, another thing to achieve, another thing to get it right. And that's not what I'm trying to do anymore. I'm simply trying to stay curious. I'm simply trying to notice. I'm trying to practice. Because understanding a pattern doesn't automatically change it. I wish it did. But change happens through new experiences, through support, through practicing something different. And that's what I've been learning lately. Most of my life I thought the goal was prevention. Hey, prevent the stress, Jahanvi, prevent the overwhelm, prevent the disappointment, prevent the next wave before it arrived. But lately, I've been wondering if the goal isn't prevention at all. Maybe the goal is resilience. Maybe the goal isn't stopping every storm before it arrives. Maybe the goal is trusting ourselves when it does. Because prevention says, if I can stop the storm, I'll be okay. And that's what my nervous system learned. But resilience says, even if the storm comes, I'll be okay. Now that feels like a completely different way of living, not just in parenting, in life. But here's what I learned. Having the realization isn't the hard part. Living it is. The hard part is remembering it when your nervous system gets activated. The hard part is creating a new experience when every part of you wants to go back to the old one. And that's where I needed support. That's where we all need support, because there are things we simply cannot see by ourselves. There are patterns we're too close to. There are stories we've been carrying for so long that they feel like truth. And sometimes we need another person to gently hold up a mirror and ask, have you noticed this? What if there's another layer underneath that one? And that's been some of the most transformational work of my own journey. Not learning more, being seen, being supported, being guided, having someone walk beside me while I uncover what's underneath. And somewhere along the way of my own journey and working with so many moms, I realized something. This is exactly what parents need. Not another parenting course, not another list of strategies, but a place where you don't have to do this work alone. Because uncovering these patterns is incredibly difficult to do alone. Not impossible, just difficult. Because it's hard to see pictures when you're standing inside the frame, like I said, right? I didn't arrive at this realization through one parenting book, one podcast, one journal entry. This has been years of studying nervous systems, years of studying emotional intelligence, child development, conscious parenting, years of doing my own work, years of uncovering my own layers. And honestly, I'm still uncovering them, as you just heard of with my story, right? I'm still learning, I'm still noticing, I'm still becoming. And every season reveals something new. Every challenge reveals something new. And even every alive cohort teaches me something new. And that's exactly, I absolutely love this work so much. Because we're not trying to become perfect. We're simply learning how to become more aware, more intentional, more connected, more alive. And the truth is, some of the biggest breakthroughs in my own journey didn't happen because I learned one more thing. They happened because someone helped me see something I couldn't see by myself. Because someone held up that mirror. Because someone asked a question I didn't thought to ask, right? Because someone walked beside me while I uncovered another layer. And that's what I wanted to create for other parents too. Place where you don't have to do this work alone. A place where you can bring your real stories, the real triggers, the real struggles, the real moments that make you wonder, why did I react like that? What is really happening underneath this? What story is my nervous system carrying? Because that's where transformation happens. Not when we're talking about parenting theory, but when we're looking at real lives, our real relationships, our real nervous systems. And that's what I.L.I.V.E parenting method has always been about. I want to share with you what one of the moms who went through I.L.I.V.E, Daria, she shared with me something that I still remember, and it'll always stay close to my heart, is she said, I can truly step into myself like I have always dreamt of. And when I read that, I did get emotional because, yes, we're talking about parenting, but we're also talking about becoming more grounded and more aware, more connected to ourselves, more alive. That's why Alive is an 8-week journey, because this work takes time. It takes reflection, takes practice, takes support. Inside Alive, you will receive weekly teachings, coaching, reflection exercises, companion guides, a community of parents walking through this work together, a safe place to ask questions, a safe place to be honest, a safe place to uncover your own layers. And because I know this work doesn't end after 8 weeks, every parent who joins this cohort will also receive 6 months inside the Authentically Parenting community. Because awareness is the beginning. Practice is what creates change. Support is what helps it stick. And community is what helps us keep going when life gets messy again. And you know it will. Alive begins next Monday, June 29th. And if you join by June 26th, you will also receive Voxer support from me as a bonus. Because sometimes the most powerful support happens in real life, right? In the middle of the hard moments, not weeks later, not after you've figured it out, but while you're living it. And if you've been listening to this video thus far and finding yourself nodding along, and if you've been thinking, hey, I think there are layers underneath my reactions too. I think there are stories I've been carrying for years. I think there are patterns I can finally start understanding because I'm so ready now. If that's you, I would love to support you, not because I have all the answers, not because I'm somehow finished with this work, but because I am in it too. Every season reveals another layer, guys. Every challenge reveals another layer. And every Alive cohort reveals another layer. And maybe that's the deepest thing I've learned through this work. Where children aren't the only ones growing, we are too. Right? Every trigger, every hard moment, every repair, every realization, it's all inviting us into becoming. Again, not becoming perfect, not becoming someone else, becoming more of ourselves. We were born with our true essence, and we have lost that somewhere along the way. Right? And maybe that's the gift hidden inside all of this. That the very moment that makes us question ourselves can also become the moments that bring us home to ourselves. Little by little, layer by layer, story by story. Because when we begin uncovering the stories our nervous systems have been carrying, when we begin creating new experiences, something shifts. We become more authentic, more grounded, more connected to who we truly are. And from that place, something even more beautiful happens. It becomes easier for us to let our children become who they truly are too. Not who we expected them to be, not who we need them to be, but who they already are. And that changes everything, right? Not just for our children, not just for our families, but guys, for generations. Because the work we're doing isn't just affecting today, it's shaping our tomorrow. And the truth is, our children won't be little forever. The season won't last forever. The relationship we're building today becomes the relationship we inherit tomorrow. And that's why this work matters. Not because we're chasing perfection, but because we're creating something so beautiful and meaningful for ourselves, for our children, for the generations that come after us. This isn't just parenting, this is truly becoming alive. And if you would love support on that journey, I'd be honored to welcome you into Alive. Sending you so much love today. And I can't wait to walk with you on this journey.